So this is, welcome to October 9th. For some reason, it seems like that's a famous day, but I don't know why. So welcome to class. This is class 5, is that right?
5.
Class 5. And we have 7 total classes. We do an 8th if we have to do an 8th class. So anyway, welcome. Tonight, we're going to do a little bit different format. We're going to do 2 of the grant presentations to start. And then I have a guest teacher who actually will teach us the subject matter that was on our PowerPoint that I already emailed you. She'll teach the piece on trauma since she kind of helped design a lot of it. So we're just going to let her teach it since she's the best. And so welcome tonight. We're going to start, there's 2 more weeks after tonight. I won't be here for either of them. Veronica and Beth will take the last 2 sessions. And so the thing you need to make sure you do is get in your grants because there's a lot of people and only 2 sessions left. Hopefully we'll get 4 people done tonight. So that's the goal anyway. So anyway, we're going to start with Rosanna. And so Rosanna, go ahead. And, what do you want me to pull up, Rosanna? Which piece?
Oh, guess I have to unmute myself. Oh, wait a minute.
That's true. Let me see if okay, let's do the organizational review form. Let me pull it up and let me share my screen. And by the way, hello, everybody. Nice to see you made it tonight and we'll have a good class. So, oops, I don't know if I went to the right place. Maybe if I paid attention a little better. Okay, you see the organizational review. Rosanna, do I have the right one?
Yep.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about them, how you got interested. Just kind of give us your little presentation, I guess the way to put it.
Okay. Well, I'm presenting the River's Edge Ranch. They're headquartered in Rancho Cucamonga, and that's where I live. Doug Whiteman owns a business in the city of Fontana, and that's where he's from. The River's Edge Ranch is in Lucerne Valley, which is up in the high desert. There's a large property there, and they work the ranch. I mean, there's animals, and it's been there since 2007. It started off really small. It was associated with the local church. And then over the years, it's just gotten bigger, more people serving on the board. They've become more business operational. I was aware of them through the city of Fontana, the Fontana Police Department, because they would use them to try to send men to this organization. So it's strictly for men right now that are addicted either to drugs or alcohol, substance abuse. It is a 1-year commitment. They request a $500 stipend a month. However, they will waive that if somebody is not able to pay it. And they break it up in 3 phases. And I love the fact that they move into 3 phases. One is really stabilizing the person, basically, showering, clothing, just basics. The second one is volunteer community service, teaching, faith. It's really definitely a faith-based program. And then the third part is to try to transition them back into full-time employment, into housing, because they own 3 homes in Fontana. And they try to get them into housing. So it's a 1-year program. And they got an 18 when I did my 990. I did get a chance to look at their yearly financials for last year, and they had a matching grant with, I believe, one of the Indian casinos, Morongo, or one of those. So they're hoping to open it up to women, to open up another facility for women. And they're doing amazing things. So
How did you learn about them?
originally through the city of Fontana, when I worked at the police department, we had their brochures. We would refer men that were struggling, because we would, run into people that were just the whole family struggles. I mean, the kids, the wives, the whole family breaks down and struggles. And so if you get the men in a family stabilized, you stabilize the family. And
And have you been to their facility?
I haven't been to the facility. I've driven past it, and it was this moment I was going somewhere and I went, oh my gosh, that's where it is. So I was really excited. I had a family friend that almost signed up for a full year here. And they're also associated, most recently I found out that I attend a local church here, and they're affiliated with the church. So there's a lot of volunteer work, there's community service. And now they're doing bus tours for people to just go out there and see how the farm works. But it's a working farm, and it's pretty cool because the people that are there learn husbandry, animal care, and they've had big cows and goats, and it's just a good program.
Sounds really, really good. Also, make sure you turn in the tax return. You can download it as a PDF. And you might have done it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's in there.
It is, okay. So I must have missed it. I know there's sometimes 50 pages, but that way Beth can take a look at it. So any questions for Rosanna? Anybody? Everybody awake? It's like sleepy time. Nap time was at 3 o'clock. This is 5:40. So anyway, well, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
That was well done.
Dan, hold on, there's a question.
Oh, sure. There's a
Looks
question.
like
Okay.
Sorry, it looks like Emily is asking, how do you want to get involved so if you want to get involved, how do you get involved? Like if you wanted some volunteer time?
I know that they do a lot of outreach, a lot of community programs. The other involvement, is contacting the ranch and finding out what their needs are. If you go alongside them to an event. The other thing is that they really look for in-kind. I do a monthly donation with them because they're really close to my heart now with what they're doing. But they take a lot of in-kind, men's clothing, shoes, boots, work boots. We've got people going up there teaching the guys construction skills, just to empower them to have some skills or something to do once they get out. So in-kind items.
Super duper. Any other questions that I missed? Gio, are you back in Benicia? Let's see. Oh, somebody's dog's getting me.
Yeah, I just barely made it. Flight was delayed.
Gio was partying with us yesterday at the company picnic, and we had to keep him under control, but we gave it our best shot. Hey, Gio, on yours, did you do the grant presentation form?
Yes.
You did? Somehow I missed that. I got your tax return. Why don't you email that to me again, Veronica and I? And that one, then I'll have you go at the end. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Nice.
Hello,
If you
my
didn't,
name's Emily.
if you didn't say yes, your computer would not work tomorrow. So it worked out good. Let's see here. What I'm going to do now is we have Emily is down in Mexico. And so she sent hers up by video because the connection's a little soft. And so I'm just going to play hers. So let me see where she went. Sometimes this thing does what it wants to do.
Hello, my name's Emily Tracy, and I'm part of the Sunday night.
Hang on just a second. Share screen. Oh, there we go.
Giving University class.
Oh, can everybody hear
And the
that?
organization that I chose is South.
Yes.
Okay. Here we
Hello,
go.
my name's Emily Tracy, and I'm part of the Sunday night Giving University class. And the organization that I chose is South Bay Teen Challenge, based out of San Jose, California. The purpose of Teen Challenge is to provide successful recovery for men, women, teens, children, and families who are going through destructive, abusive, addictive lifestyles through mentoring, education, training, and spiritual direction. The Teen Challenge Centers have long-term residential programs that last 12 to 18 months. And South Bay Teens Challenge, which is a part of the Teen Challenge USA, was established in 1985, and it has 2 centers under its belt. The Alum Rock Women and Children's Center, which supports single women, pregnant women, and women with children. And the Asbury Family Center, which is one of the only Teen Challenge centers in the United States, allowing both husbands and wives to enter the recovery together with their children. At the Asbury Family Center, they have a 13 apartment complex where they work together and live together and recovery together. Teen Challenge was founded over 60 years by Pastor David Wilkerson when God led Wilkerson to minister to the addicts and gang members on the streets of New York City. Now Teen Challenge has grown to over 195 centers within the United States, and it has 1,000 centers worldwide in the Global Teen Challenge. Thankfully, 78% of the people who have graduated from Teen Challenge remain sober and substance abuse free after participating in the program. Doing the 990 scorecard, the Giving University analysis score of South Bay Teen Challenge is 18. South Bay Teen Challenge is a biblically based recovery program that endeavors to restore lives and families. This is why I selected the organization. As we've read and as we've studied, there's different types of people in need, and a person suffering from addictive behavior can be found in a situation of poverty, in a bad health situation, under spiritual oppression, and they need spiritual guidance. Those are 4 of the 7 types of people in need, and people who I'd most likely help, as we learned about in Finding My Passion. The Bible says in Matthew, "Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?' The king will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.'" As a follower of Christ, my heart should break for those in need, those who need a helping hand to find their way once again, to find hope and purpose. This is part of the reason that South Bay Teens Challenge doesn't look just for a quick fix to their problem, but looks for the wholeness and restoring purpose to each of their students. When I was growing up, I heard a lot about Teen Challenge and testimonies at our church. My father is a handyman at their 2 centers. And now one of my close friends is a volunteer counselor at their centers. And an old high school friend is now the director of those centers. So how do I plan to be involved in this organization in the future? I hope I can. I'm out of the US right now, but when I'm up visiting my families to see in ways that I'm able to participate, and also if I'm able to donate funds towards the organization. That's why I chose South Bay Teen Challenge. Bye-bye. Hello, my name's Emily.
Tracy, and I'm part of
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, Emily's, yeah. Emily, can you hear us okay?
I could hear you well. Thank you.
Okay, good. That was very nice. Let me see here. Emily's videos. Oh, we just did the, let me see what we got here. Oh, okay, so let's look at the, this guy here. So they're in Vallejo. She picked them because she's in Mexico, and it's kind of hard to find one with a 990 in Mexico. So this is the grant form, short and sweet. And Emily, did you turn in the tax return also?
I believe so.
Okay.
Danny,
yeah.
I think that's Giovanni's. The one that you pulled up just now. It looks like
Yep.
Giovanni's.
It does?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mine.
Oh, see, Giovanni, we're always trying to steal your stuff. That's where yours went. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, it's well, maybe it's down here. I think that's it. Hang on. Hang on. So this one is South Bay Teen Challenge. And it's nicely done, all typed up and pretty. Again, you don't have to type these up. You can do handwritten if you'd like. And it's well laid out. Did they have a facility you'd go over and visit from time to time when you were up there?
They have 2 centers in the San Jose area, one for women and then one for families.
Okay, and did you get to go to one or the other from every once in a while or ever, or?
In the past few years, no, but a while ago, yes.
Okay. All right, now that I pulled up the right one, are there any questions from anybody? I see we're active tonight and question asking. Okay, so very good, thank you. And you said there were 18, right? According to how you scored it?
Yes, they're 20, 990.
Okay. And okay, so what we're going to do is let's do one more thing. Brianna, you had a question on scoring your since those went pretty quick. You had a question on scoring your 990. Is this the right one?
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Okay, so if everybody has their little handy dandy 990 analysis printed out form that we all love and hold dear to our hearts, why don't you tell us, do you have your score sheet?
Just a second. I need to grab it. It wasn't in my pile of papers.
Oh, okay. We'll see if we can help you score it here. And what I'll have you do is tell us what you scored it at. We'll see what this guy, everybody have their calculators out and all that good stuff.
Ready.
You're ready? Ready, Freddie? Okay, so what do you do on question one or the first one? What are you supposed to do? Let's see what form. Oh, we're on an easy form. That's the problem. Okay, so on this form, you got to score it a little bit different. We have another form that you can use that will email you. And because this isn't a normal 990, this is a 990 easy. And we have a different form that we use to score those now. Or at least
Okay,
give it a shot. So let me pull up that form.
Yeah, that's why I was confused because the numbers didn't line up. Like I couldn't even score it because it was like line 9 and line 12, but they didn't line
Yeah.
up. So
The
that's why I was
easy,
confused.
the easy after the 990s is what's going on there. So
Gotcha.
let me see if I can pull up the other form. Okay, so I found it. So this is the other form. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
So when there's no regular 990, this is what you use. This is the basic information. We look to see how the top level compensation is. So you still have to get some financials. It might be on that 990 easy. I've never really looked too closely at them. So see if you can pull that information out and then fill this out. And then you can send that in and we'll kind of score it based on what we see. But that's the form that you need.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
And send me an email right now. And then after class tonight, when I look at my emails, I'll get that over to you.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, super.
Dan, may I have a copy of that, or can you send it to our emails or everybody?
Sure. Yeah, send me an email. Do you have an email?
Yes, sir.
Send me an email. Do you sure you need that form?
No,
Okay.
I just thought that I did since you said.
Well, the thing is, if I send you the form, which I'm happy to do, I don't want to confuse you with an extra form you may not need.
Okay.
So why don't you do this? Try to get whatever your organization is, try to get one that you use our form on, a regular 990. And
Okay.
if you get that, you won't need this one. This is kind of
Got it.
it's a poor man's 990 analysis form. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Got it.
So anyway, all righty, what we're going to do is we're going to shift gears a little bit and do our class. And we have a friend of GU, a friend of mine, Amy Gaw. And she's with a group called OC United. And GU got involved with her because there's people in the world out there that are really hustling and pushing and grabbing and just really trying to get things done. And Amy was one of those kind of people. So somehow she ran into us, or we ran into her. And after a while, we really liked what she was doing and the direction she was going. So Giving University purchased a house for Amy's group. And it's a house that's used for foster kids that are out of the foster system and in the transition system. So I think at 18, they get out of the foster system and the house is there to kind of give them a bridge to when they get a job and a house and all that good stuff. And I don't know if they have a time limit, but anyway, Amy, the class is going to pepper you with questions tonight, I'm sure. So if you have a question while she's talking, just go like this. And some of you need to turn on your cameras for me like Brianna, Abby, Yvonne, Alonda, Vizier, and Tia, because I do like the cameras on. And so if you could do that for me, I'd really appreciate it. Amy, go ahead. It's all yours.
Well, great, everybody. It's so nice to meet you. Like Dan said, so a little bit about me. I grew up in Venezuela in South America. And I came here to the US when I was 18 to go to college. And then my dream was to go work with street children in Romania. I spent some summers in Romania and Bosnia, and that was my plan. Then I met my husband, who was born, raised, lived in Southern California. And so our first year of marriage, we went to a camp for kids in foster care. And that camp changed the trajectory of our lives. And so leaving that camp, my husband, Jason, looked at me and he said, we're going to be doing this every year that we can. And so that was 21 years ago. And we are still volunteering and are still involved. We took over directing 10 years ago. And so it was really as a result of that camp that I got thrust into the foster care world. And so then 7 years ago, our church decided to launch a nonprofit, and they invited me to help be a co-founder to help meet the needs of kids in the foster care system in Orange County. So the topic tonight, I'm going to share my screen. The topic tonight is on generosity and trauma. And so these two things are pretty much are my life. So I get to partner with people who have experienced trauma and are doing remarkable things with their lives. And I get to partner with some of the most generous people in the world. And so this intersection is something that's dear to my heart. I've seen lots of great examples of generosity. And I have seen some examples where clearly there was not an understanding of trauma. And those make it a little bit more challenging in our work. So can everybody see my screen okay? Okay. So I would really like, I hate talking to myself. So, I mean, I would really love it if people would share. So I would like to do a quick get to know you. So if you could go around, I'm going to stop screen sharing so that I can see everybody's faces. But if you could go around and say your name, your location that you're at, and if you are the same person you were in early 2020 before the pandemic started. Okay, so I can call on names. We can do the popcorn where you just volunteer and then you pick somebody, but does anybody want to go first? And I'll just start with you. Okay.
I'll start.
Okay.
Rosanna Capuano. I live in Alta Loma, Rancho Cucamonga. I'm probably not the same person I was before the pandemic, but I hope I'm better.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to share how they feel their life was impacted by COVID, you can. This is nobody's forced to share though. So thank you for starting, Rosanna. Let's go to Veronica. I'm just going to go in order, then I can make sure. Okay, Veronica.
Hi, Amy. My name is Veronica Coria. I'm from Fontana, California. I would say I have changed I guess, you know, the whole pandemic really has showed, I guess for me, more compassion towards people. You know, I think I've come across a lot of people that have passed away, you know, from COVID. And right before COVID, my mother had passed away. And so just thankful that she had a good service, you know, a funeral service. And a lot of people didn't get that opportunity, you know, the transition from, you know, that human contact.
Yeah.
So thankful, you know, that I had that opportunity, but compassion towards people that didn't. So I would say, it's really, it moved me.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Veronica. Okay, Leo and Victoria.
Hi, so we're originally from, well, I mean, we live in Denver, but we're in Maryland right now on a vacation.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Look at you
So-
overachieving students. That's amazing.
Well, anyways, I don't know about that, but yeah, I think I've changed. I think I'm bolder.
Okay.
With, because I was really tired of being lied to a lot, and I being in the medical industry and stuff, as a CNA and stuff, I think I'm very changed.
Okay, great.
I'm Leo, and I think I'm pretty much the same. I was kind of outspoken before, and I still am. And I don't really do well with people that are controlled by fear. So it's pretty much the same.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Emily, I'm not sure if you can jump on the phone. You look like you might be frozen.
Hello. I'm Emily
oh,
Tracy, and I live in San Martin Perras, Oaxaca, Mexico, southern Mexico. And I think through the pandemic, I learned more to be, not so much what I do and what I do and what I do, but more important, who I am.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Emily, for sharing that. Oh my goodness, all the screens changed. So now I'm really gonna have to remember. Okay, Addie, let's go with you.
Hi,
Okay,
I'm
hi,
Abby.
I'm,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, I thought you said Abby. Go ahead.
Go
Addie.
ahead, Abby. Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Abby. I'm in Florence, Alabama.
Okay.
And I would say, yep, definitely there's been some changes since 2020.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Mariko?
That's close as Mariko.
Mariko. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I forgot already. What?
Has your life been impacted by COVID?
Oh,
Have you
yeah,
changed?
right.
Were you the same person?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Welcome, by the way. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. Thanks for that.
Let's see. Yes, definitely. I guess I tend to just sometimes space it out. But anyway, I lost my father and my life partner and another friend. So yeah, I was definitely impacted.
Yeah.
And I think I'm more aware, like of how things go on in the medical community, or in not the medical community, but in the on the medical side of things in people's lives. And I'm understanding about the relation between trauma and living and handling new changes, and how that affects your stress levels and whatnot. So that's me.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. And,
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Okay, Alunda, are you on? I know your screen's not on.
How you doing? Alonda here.
Okay.
Definitely a different person. And I'm in Florence, Alabama as well. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Brianna. Or is it Brenna? Which one?
There's two of us. I'm
Oh,
Brianna.
You're
So
Brianna.
yes. So I could just go.
Go, just go. Perfect.
I'm from Idaho, but I'm currently going to college at Utah State in
Okay.
Utah. And I would say I definitely changed. I went on a religious mission in this time since COVID started.
Okay.
And so I was in Germany and Washington, D.C. And so I got to see a lot of different cultures and people. And I think my compassion definitely grew a lot.
Good. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, let's go to the other, is it Brianna?
Yeah, I go by Bree.
You go by Bree. Oh, hence the in parentheses right
Yeah.
there. Could have figured that out, but nope. Go ahead,
I'm
Bree.
I'm in Denver. Well, I live in Bennett, Colorado, but I'm originally from California. I would say it just changed me because I'm younger and I didn't think I would ever live through something like that. So it's
Yeah.
kind of wow. You wouldn't think it would happen in this lifetime, and me being like a young mother that I was just trying to do everything to protect him. So it
Yeah.
just changed and I lost a lot of family members to it. So it's just I think I just grew and appreciated life more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Bree. I'm sorry about the loss with your family members.
Thank you.
Yvonne.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Turner from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And yes, it did change me, the pandemic. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for sharing, Yvonne.
Mhm.
Vizier and Tia.
Yes. Yeah, I'm Vizier. I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I would say yes, it has changed me from the past 2 years.
Hi, I'm Tia. Denver, Colorado too. I would say yes, it did change me. I think more of like I am socially, because of course with the pandemic, we were on lockdown for a while. And then also just like with my job, that's when we also went remote and have been remote ever since. So I think just I'm not as I don't know, wanting to be out in the world as much. It's kind of hard to adjust to social settings
Yeah.
than before. So
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, Addie with a D. Let's try that.
Hi, I'm Addie. I'm in Provo, Utah, and I think I definitely have changed. I had a similar experience as Brianna, I think was her name. I also went on a religious mission for like a year and a half during COVID, and it was definitely very hard because I feel like people were all like hunkered down. So it was like a time when I was wanting to like reach out and like expand myself. But yeah, it was just definitely interesting, like social, like I think Tia said. But definitely changing, and I think good to like gain more empathy for like where other people were at in different situations.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, Giovanni.
Giovanni, living in Vallejo, California, and part of the Bay Area. Yeah, definitely. The pandemic changed my life, and I see the how short that life could be. I lost my father-in-law last January, and he was pretty young. Well, definitely changed.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So I think this is, conversations on trauma look different now post-COVID, because COVID gave us all a snapshot of what trauma feels like and what it's like to exist and live through the unknown. And so I love the brain. I love brain science. I have a ton of stories on trauma. But so we'll get into some of that if we have time. What's my cutoff time, Dan? You said I have till when?
7.
7? Okay. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So listen, if you want to hear a story or if you want to go deep
Oh.
in something,
Let me update that time. You have till 6:45 because we got to get 2 more grant proposals in.
Dan.
Sorry, Amy. I was trying to give you more time.
Veronica, thank you.
Yeah, well,
I
otherwise you
feel
would have.
that.
Sorry.
I feel that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
otherwise
Got a lot to
there'd be,
cover, I guess.
they'd be crushed on the last 2 classes. So anyway,
So, so my goals for tonight though are exactly what we just talked about right now. One is that we understand that trauma impacts each one of us uniquely. We can go through the same event, COVID, and yet our answers were different in this group. The other thing that came out tonight, right, was some of the similarities, new ways that we have new understanding for other people that typically we wouldn't have understanding for. And so as we look at trauma, I'm going to do like a high level overview of like key spots. So I took an Excel class, you know, one of those like figure out Excel and spreadsheets and whatever. And like 2 hours in, I wanted to cry because I was like, I'm never going to remember. I'm just trying to hang on to what this person is saying. And at one point I like, I don't know, raised my hand and was like, can you just slow down? I'm trying to type out what that formula was. And he said, listen, the point of this class is not for you to remember how to do everything in Excel. The point of this class is for you to know that Excel can do something. And so at some point later, when you need it, you'll remember this class and remember that you know that Excel can do it. And then you just Google it and find the formula yourself. And so I'd kind of like to do that tonight. We're going to do a high brush over some of the key points of trauma. But this isn't so that you retain all the brain science, but it's more so that if you're listening and you think like, oh, wow, I really want to understand more about attachment, or, oh, wow, I want to understand more about this, then you remember this conversation, you can Google it and find out everything that I would say, except for maybe some of the stories that I'll share. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And we're going to try to book through, Dan, this as much as possible. Can you guys see this okay? Okay. Okay, so we did our quick intros, yay. So why do we think we need to understand trauma in the context of generosity? Like, anybody have an idea why this matters? Because actually Dan, if I can divulge this, Dan, was like, hey, I don't even know really why we have to spend time talking about trauma. So in my mind, I'm just curious to see if anybody else thinks this is relevant or if maybe not. Any ideas?
I think it's relevant because sometimes you do need to understand what population you're working with and how trauma can affect them. So you're not just going there blindsided and not understanding, oh, well, why do I need to be generous to this? It's just an education standpoint, I would see that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tia. I agree wholeheartedly.
I also think it's we need to understand trauma because it'll help us how we respond, and what could be very, very offensive or very we might think we know what they need and we really don't.
Absolutely. So here's my definition that I typed up for tonight. So here are my goals. So we have to know trauma to act in generosity. One, we have to know what lens we're bringing to the table. That's our own trauma. That's how we view things. What happens to us impacts how we view other people, okay? We have to understand the context of our society, our culture, our family dynamics. That informs what we view, how we view people. And then the last thing, and this is probably the most important takeaway, is we have to acknowledge our inability to accurately assume about the person in front of us. We just have to realize we cannot assume we know what's going on with the person in front of us. So I'm going to give an example of generosity in this context. So I was speaking at a Rotary Club. So Rotaries are a bunch of businessmen, historically, very wealthy, historically. It's changed a little bit. However, there still is a Rotary in Fullerton that they invited me to speak at, but no women are allowed in it. So, you know, whatever, we'll take it with a grain of salt, but I can come and talk. But so I did my pitch on age out foster youth and why you should help and all this stuff. This man at the end gets up visibly angry. Okay. And he says, I just have to share because you're up here saying that age out foster youth need our help. But he said, I just want you to know that I met a former foster youth. And when I was talking to her, she talks about how she was struggling with her work and going to school. And so I offered to pay for her entire college education. And she said no. And he was livid. And then he just like sat down. So here's an example of somebody being tremendously generous, right? Offering to pay for 4 years of education. But clearly he was missing what was in front. So do you guys have some ideas on our girl, maybe why she would not want to receive paid 4 years of education?
I'm going to say that. Go ahead.
You sure? Okay. I was going to think about sexual abuse or, yeah, definitely sexual abuse and that's not feeling comfortable taking money from what that means, what that might mean.
What that
taking
might mean.
money from a man, you know. I mean, I guess I can relate because, yeah, I can relate to that. So.
Yeah. Any other ideas?
I think being indebted to somebody, you don't understand, you know, the guilt or the,
right.
You know, feeling that victim that now you're indebted to somebody for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you know, I hate to say this, but also that it's a rich man and versus a wealthy woman. I don't know. You know, we all react so differently.
So listen, it's super important that we talk about dynamics here. And because pretending they don't exist actually doesn't help any of us. So this has to be a place where we're talking about the dynamics because dynamics are real to each one of us. And what we're going to study with the brain is it doesn't necessarily matter that whether there's a traditional logical reason for it, our brain is geared for survival. So if someone hurts us that looks a certain way or has a certain role, our brain will just tell us, hey, you need to survive. So like, get out of Dodge, right? So yes, all of those things are legitimate. Now, I don't know the girl. Maybe she didn't want pity. Maybe she didn't want to feel like she needed somebody's help. Maybe she had spent the last 18 years in foster care and wanted to do this on her own. So we don't really know. But what I do know is that I have a man who is really trying to be generous and do the right thing. And he's now completely turned off to helping people because he didn't understand maybe some of these other dynamics at play. So one of our girls that lives in our home was trafficked by family members. And I think part of the problem with some of these conversations is we feel like they're like worst case scenarios. And I think I'll be really surprised by the level of trauma and abuse in our society. So when one of my girls got rescued from trafficking, she was rescued by a county employee. And he said, great, we're going to put you up in a hotel room till we can figure out how to get you safe. So he literally books a hotel room for this girl. She was terrified the entire night. Because in her world, she knew if she got a free hotel room, that he was going to come for something else. She would have to pay back, because we'll talk about it a little bit later. We live in a transactional society. America especially is super transactional, okay? And so you earn your keep, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for some of our people who have experienced legitimate trauma, us offering to help, there's no place in their brain that says, oh yeah, I bet this is a really super sincere, good person that's gonna generously give to me and not have any strings attached. That's a further stretch. So my goal for today is that we leave with greater understanding and empathy and kindness, both to ourselves and our trauma and our responses, and to people that we meet. So this is a snapshot of a brain image that was taken from a baby in an orphanage in Romania. One of my biggest frustrations with trauma is the brain does not show outward signs of damage. So we would never ask a kid in a wheelchair, a boy with a broken arm to join a baseball team. We would never put that pressure, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Come on, if you want to play, you can play. We would just be nice and not throw that on him, and not expect him to explain, oh, well, actually my arm is broken, so I can't really catch. And I would feel ashamed being out here because I don't really know. So unfortunately with the brain, it can be this significantly smaller and this significantly altered. But when we look at this precious little kid, we don't see this. If we all saw this, man, we would extend so much more grace, right? So what's trauma? Let's get some answers. We'll take like 3. Or 2. Okay, 3.
I would, I actually am going through that right now, trauma,
Okay.
the domestic violence case.
Okay.
So I think trauma to me is this, and the fear of something that you went through that you're still trying to understand and figure out how to deal with.
Absolutely.
I was thinking the inability to process events or information or whatever without attachment, you know.
Yeah. Okay, Giovanni.
Trauma for me is how the people gonna treat you for any physical conditions or how do you looks like.
Yeah. So Bree, maybe we can talk offline if you want at some point too. So I don't want to just gloss over the situation that you find yourself in, but thanks for sharing that. So I broke up my definition of trauma just a little bit. So it's an event, a series of events, or a set of circumstances, okay, that are experienced as harmful, distressing, or life-threatening, that has lasting effects on a person's ability to function mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually. So exactly what was just shared. So that can be a lot. So there's 3 main types of trauma. We'll just do, so one is acute trauma or event trauma. So that would be like a car accident, that would be a tornado, that would be, you know, some event. We have chronic trauma, which is more like living in, it can be like domestic violence. It could be like living during a war. It's more prolonged. And then you have complex trauma, which is really, I'm now leaning towards most chronic trauma is complex trauma. So complex trauma adds a level of invasiveness of multiple trauma points within a trauma occurrence. So those are your main types. Here's what's challenging about trauma, kind of like what we just talked about with COVID, right? Well, maybe I'll skip that because we don't have much time. Okay. So trauma leaves a lasting imprint. Might not seem to make sense when people react to other people, and trauma experienced in early childhood can affect people throughout their life. So I'm going to just share with me. I grew up in South America. My dream was to not look white. I dreamed of dyeing my hair black. I begged my mom to let me dye my hair black. And she said, when you turn 18, sweetheart, you can do whatever you want to your hair. Okay. So I grew up in constant fear. I was felt up, I was touched, I was talked about, right? My entire life. I went to a boarding school at one point. They graffitied out our front driveway. So like when we walked out, there was like a wall, you know, on the other side of the street. And it said, in case of rape, relax and enjoy it. So that was my childhood. So here I am. So I'm 46 years old. Okay. I'm in a stable marriage. I have a job, loving family, lots of structures around me. I still, when I go into a room to sit down or a restaurant, I cannot have my back to the exit. I walked into my GU class. I'm in the Tuesday night class. And I sat at the table where I could see both exits, and they have this big glass window, right? The thought of having my back to the glass window, not being able to see what was coming at me, was terrifying for me. Now, nothing's going to happen to me at the GU office. I know this in my brain when I go to a restaurant with my husband, right? So my husband and I are dating. He always tried to sit in the same spot I wanted to, right? And so finally I was like, sweetheart, like, why won't you ever sit with your back to the door? So he is, when I met him, a college scholarship water polo player, really good looking, master's degree, right? Great guy. But he has alopecia. So that's when you lose your hair. At 3 years old, he lost all of his hair. So guess what he tells me as this strapping 24-year-old boy? He says, oh, because Amy, when everybody walks in the restaurant, I know they're staring at the back of my head because I'm bald. Did people walk in and even notice him? No. Am I going to get attacked at a restaurant in Brea? Probably not. And yet both of our brain wirings from childhood said, ooh, this is what's going on. So you better be hyper vigilant, right? So our brains are totally wired for survival, which is an absolutely good thing because we need to live, okay? So when survival brain kicks in, you're not thinking, you lose. So we have got like the front of the brain and then the lower part of your brain. The front of your brain is all your like logic and rational thinking and what's really going on. And let me take a step back here. And then your bottom of your brain is like, I got to survive, right? When you're in a life or death situation, we don't have time for your brain to process, right? You just need to react. So your stress hormones kick in, your heart rate starts beating harder, your muscles inflame, and you're like fight, flight, or freeze, right? Are you guys familiar with those stress responses? Okay. So, so I added fawn because this is a fourth one that isn't always added. Does anybody know what fawn applies to in a stress response? Okay, so fawn is when you just go along with everything. And it's kind of a form of freeze in the sense that the person's not thinking anymore. But the difference is like when a person hits freeze, they tend to shut down completely. And you can't get anything out of them until their brain gets into higher functioning. With fawn, they just go along with whatever you're saying. And so their brain has told them, hey, how you survive is just by like absolute compliance. And so really for those of us, man, we had one of our girls that was like this. And the only way I could tell ultimately was that her pupils would dilate. And because that's one of your trauma responses, increased heart rate, breathing, inflammation, pupils dilate, right? Because otherwise it was just like this weird compliance. And it took a while to realize, hey, she's not even going to remember what I'm saying right now in this moment. So those are your responses. So I'm going to give an example of really quickly of how attachment cycles are involved with this, with your stress response. Okay, is anybody familiar with the attachment cycle? Yeah, so listen, there's a need. So historically we say this with babies, right? Hey, there's a need. I'm hungry. I've got a dirty diaper. Okay. The baby expresses the need by like screaming their head off. Okay. And then guess what happens? Mom hears that need. Caregiver hears that need, comes over, meets the need. Oh, you're hungry? Here, let me give you a bottle. Okay. The baby is then comforted. So de-escalates and trust is built. So then the baby starts to know, hey, when I have this crazy need and my brain is like, you're going to die because you're starving to death, then I start to learn, I have this pattern of behavior that tells me, hey, my needs are going to get met. So that's a healthy attachment style. So what happens when this is disrupted? So there's a need that's met, the baby screams its head off, and mom's not there. Or mom's doing drugs, or mom has to work and dad has to work. And so babies with 5-year-old brother who is watching TV and doesn't really care that his baby sister is crying again, right? So the need isn't met. So then instead of receiving comfort, the brain goes psycho, right? Like, so you're either enraged, right? You get more angry. And then ultimately you give up because you learn it doesn't matter if I'm asking for help. No one is going to come. So then instead of trust being built, you have distrust that's built and apathy. And this affects it's usually historically taught in this context of how your brain develops as a baby. But I want to run through, I know we don't really have time, but I want to run through this example just because this is what happens. My son, 6 years old, riding a horse. Okay, my sister's horse. Oh, come bring Matthew out. He'll love to ride it. I put Matthew on this horse. This is so special. My mom's on one side, my sister's got the lead. I'm on the other side. I'm like, I want to take a picture. So I step like 15 feet back to get my picture. My mom moves around the back of the horse and my sister lets go of the lead so that we could smile for this great photo. The horse spooks and I watch my son slide off the saddle and the horse literally kicked him and flipped him over. So this would be an event, acute trauma point, right? So my son's crying, he's terrified, he gets out of the way. I rush over, I hold him, I comfort him. We decide we need to get you to the hospital right away. So my parents are there. They say, great, we'll drive you. I'm in the back of the car with him so I can hold him. I call my husband who is at work. And I'm like, buddy, you know what? Daddy's going to leave work right now. He's going to come meet us at the hospital. We go to the hospital, they take x-rays and they're like, it's miraculous that he's okay. The horse literally like scraped the inside of his arm and he had scrapes all across the torso, but nothing was crushed. So then we're like, buddy, you're so brave. You're in the hospital. We're so proud of you. Like, oh, God protected you. Oh, right. So he's just surrounded. So then my sister calls and it's like, oh my goodness, Lizzie, the horse, feels terrible. Like Lizzie literally knew she did something wrong. She didn't know what it was, right? So my sister's like, is there any chance, Matthew, can you come and feed Lizzie and show Lizzie that you're okay? So then Matthew goes back to this horse and is now the comforter to the horse, right? Hey, Lizzie, I just want you to know I'm okay. Look, I just got my scrapes on my arms and everything, right? So I said, Matthew, do you want to ride Lizzie? He's like, no. I was like, okay, you don't ever have to ride a horse ever again. Okay, so fast forward 8 years. He just got invited to go horseback riding with his friend. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if he's going to go. So he goes and I'm like, are you going to ride the horse? And he's like, yeah, totally, Mom. And he's like, oh, do you remember when I like fell off? And I'm like, do I remember? It was like super traumatizing. So what would have happened if one of the other boys riding walks up just like Matthew did and all of a sudden says, panics, and is like, I can't get on this horse. And we say, oh, what happened? Why? And he says, oh, when I was 6 years old, I fell off my horse. Does it work for me to say, or for Matthew to say, oh, well, I fell off my horse when I was 6 and I'm fine? Does that work?
No way.
No way. Because maybe nobody, maybe he was in, I mean, we do endless scenarios, right? Maybe only his mom was there. Maybe she didn't have a car. Maybe they had no money and she was afraid she couldn't pay for legal bills. Maybe it was a family event and he got shamed. What if the owner of the horse was like, I can't believe you fell off my horse. Now my horse feels bad, right? This kid could have fallen off the horse, had severe trauma, and then not had his medical needs met, not had anyone to comfort him, and be going home at night thinking somehow I'm to blame. I went through this scary experience and I don't know if I have a rib broken or if something's wrong with me because I'm in a lot of pain, but we didn't ever know, right? So it does not work. This is the problem with trauma. It does not work to say, oh, I've been there, I've done that. And we do this all the time. Well, I had to pay for college myself. Oh, I had to work myself through a job. Oh, I left that bad relationship. Oh, we do it all the time.
Sometimes, a lot of times, I know you, and I want to hear your presentation. I just
No,
want to say,
go ahead. Yeah.
Sometimes, you, damn it, forget already. Sometimes you add another layer of trauma to that when that happens. It's like, now I don't feel worthy or I don't feel capable or whatever because, wow, this person isn't tripping, but I am. What's wrong with me? Yeah.
Right. Right. So I'm not going to go into a ton of science. I'm just going to share this page. So it's your amygdala's job to freak out.
Amy,
Yeah.
you can go an extra 10 minutes, but you have to stop right at 5 to 7.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to summarize this is my only brain talk. Your amygdala's job is to freak out and keep you safe. Okay. It activates your limbic system, which notifies your hippocampus. So your hippocampus is like the library of the brain. So it says, oh my goodness, there's whatever in front of me. There's a horse in front of you. Are you going to die? And are there any strategies? And your hippocampus is like, oh yeah, actually you went horse riding and you know what, you fell, but actually you were okay. And it turned out fine. So even if you do fall, because we've already been there, done that, your brain says, hey, you're going to be okay. Go ahead, de-escalate. You can go get on that horse. Okay. So this happens all the time. And so our brain remembers and creates neural pathways for how we react. And so if we have an experience, your brain says, oh, go ahead, we can engage the front part of your brain. You're going to live through this. You'll be fine. If there's not a strategy, you go straight into the bottom part of your brain and you react. And we see this all the time working with kiddos from the foster care system. Okay. We were at camp. One of our kids slips and falls. The counselor literally goes to just grab him, right? The kid turns around and decks this counselor. So his brain did not say, oh, you're being touched without being known from behind. Let's go ahead and figure out that, oh, there have been plenty of times when somebody's come up behind you and it doesn't mean something bad. No, this kid's brain says somebody touches you from behind, you better fight because it's going to be bad. The kid never thought about punching. That was not a choice. He did not say, I don't really like that this guy touched me. I'm going to punch him. He just punched. Because his brain said, oh, you got to survive, punch. So when our girl doesn't want to accept somebody's generosity, her brain might just say like, yeah, no way. No way. This isn't even a consideration. No, I'm out and leave. So we'll skip all this, except to know that so our stress response is, like I said, amazing because it keeps us alive, right? But our bodies can really only handle about 20 minutes. If we're under more than 20 minutes of that stress cortisol body activation, it starts to do harm. So there's this amazing study. Please, any of you who are interested, or email me afterwards and we can go to coffee and talk about it. But there's this amazing study. There was Kaiser was trying to figure out an obesity case. This woman just could not lose weight. And so they started looking into it and they realized some patterns in their past. So they developed this study called Adverse Childhood Experiences. Okay. And it's continued on and studied over the last 30 years. And it shows the direct correlation between prolonged stress and your body's health. So it looks at, do you have a family member who's incarcerated, alcohol or drug abuser, mentally ill? Have you lost a parent? Have you witnessed your parents being abused by someone? Were you physically abused? Were you humiliated? Were you sexually assaulted? So these 10 questions, were you ever hungry? And did you often feel that no one in your house thought you were important? So here's what they found out in that study. 64% of people said yes to one of those questions. Now, this study was done on Kaiser patients. So that means they all had medical insurance. It was done in San Diego. So the majority were employed, college educated, and were in a place enough to have medical insurance with Kaiser. So here's what some of the outcomes. People who scored 4 or more, and there's this amazing chart that I wish we had time to go through, but are more likely to drop out of high school, twice as likely to be unemployed, 3 times more likely to miss work, right? 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with bipolar, 5 times more likely to be diagnosed with clinical depression, 6 times more likely to use drugs, and 10 times more likely to attempt suicide. When you look at this list of ACEs, those questions, those kids did not make those choices. They were answering questions about their environment. So when we start to look at things like homelessness, when we start to look at things that don't make sense to us in our society, we've got some pretty amazing science that shows that the brain was just trying to survive and the body has paid the price. Now, my trafficking girl that I told you about, her body is literally falling apart. It blows my mind. She is right now having surgery at UCI to have fluid removed from her heart. It's crazy. 8 years of being trafficked has destroyed her body. So this stuff is real. So when someone's sick all the time, or when someone's whatever, just know this stuff is real. And if it seems hard to believe, just call me and I can give you story after story after story. So just really quickly, this is what I was talking about before. Front of your brain engages. This is all your executive functioning. All your like, oh, let me make a good choice. Oh, let me get context. This is the back of your survival brain. So look at the difference in these brains between a healthy brain and a brain that's abused. The processing is not even the same. So just really quickly with ACEs, because we've talked about trauma, but like abuse trauma pretty much. But can you guys see this graph? Okay, I can make it bigger. Okay, so here's the ones that were in the initial ACEs assessment. These are all adverse childhood experiences. But then what's important to recognize is there's all these community adverse childhood experiences. And then there's also environmental adverse childhood experiences. So we're not only talking, when we talk about trauma, we're not only talking about just, and I don't mean just, but we're not talking about only abuse within the family. So I think it's important when you're looking at organizations, look for ones that have an understanding of trauma, okay? Look for ones who the participants, the people that are being served or helped, are involved in the decision-making. And look for ones that are providing programs and solutions that the people have identified as a priority and a need. So we too often say, oh, this is what my brain tells me, as Amy White, lived in Southern California, but oh, lived in South America. This is what I think is needed. No, that might not be what's needed. I had a friend I was talking to last night. Her sister is an alcoholic. And I just said, have you, she's like, we've tried this. And I said, have you ever asked her what she needs? What does she need? What does she want? Does she want to live? Does she want to kick alcoholism? Right? And so often we're so busy here that we lose sight of who's in front of us. So here's some stats that correlate to homelessness. We won't go into this. Homelessness is increasing for those who want to know. I want to touch on this just really quickly. Our societal lens in the US, okay? We don't have time for this, but can somebody finish these statements for me? Pull yourself up by your
bootstraps.
Bootstraps. You got to be a contributing member of
Society.
Society. The early bird gets the
Worm.
If you scratch my back, I'll
scratch yours.
Scratch yours.
Yeah, and this one I'm going to say, because this is what I said all the time. Oh, I am just a stay-at-home mom.
Dad. Whatever.
Yeah. Do you know that now I'm a co-founder and director of a nonprofit? I have never said, oh, I am just a co-founder and a director of a nonprofit. Why? Because I was producing.
Right.
And I'm contributing to society. But somehow when I was just staying at home with my two boys, now nobody told me to add the just. I literally just added the just all the time. Because our society is built this way. So what happens? What is the implied inherent value of someone who is not producing?
No
we
value.
got to sit with it. We got to sit with it because we're not thinking this question. Because if I have asked every single person in this room, if a person, any person has value, you would all say 100% yes. You would all. And yet our society has geared our brain to just be thinking like, there's this other lens that we have to recognize is at play here. So here's our lens.
Amy, let me say one thing too. Go back to that other screen. See, every manager, basically, this is what they live by. And so that's the hard part. When I teach this, I always say, you know, if you understand why somebody's missed work 4 out of the last 5 days because of their trauma, that's one thing. The problem is, as a manager, you have to balance this in the world of reality of what you need to make your business work. And so just so everybody knows, we're real realistic with this. But it also helps you understand why the guy missed 4 days work.
Yeah. And that's part of the understanding, because we need, I run a business too. Like, we've got after school program. I need my people to show up to teach, right? So this isn't saying, this is just saying that we have to acknowledge this is part of our lens when we come in. And we don't have a society that understands, hey, what do we do with people who need 4 days off because of trauma? We don't have a framework for that to work in our society. So it is something that we need to wrestle with, right? What is that balance? So we can skip that. So just maybe the next time you're interacting with somebody that frustrates you, or you don't understand, or you think should be making different choices, I hope that you'll just remember this and maybe have a little bit more patience, maybe be a little bit more kind, maybe give a second chance, right? So one of the slides that I didn't show you was there's this amazing study that was being done in Scotland on how supportive structures significantly cut the risk of ACEs outcomes, right? So there's great hope. And for those of us with trauma, our trauma often is what makes us so good about reaching other people, okay? My hypervigilance helps me do my job very well. If I were not hypervigilant, I could not do my job, right? I want to, Dan, I know I'm at 6:55. So I want to share one quick story. I was 30 seconds. I'll be done in my time. I was at a sextortion presentation. A girl said, I was on my way to go commit suicide. I was walking out of a store. A woman opened the door for me. She greeted me and she said, I hope you have a really nice day. And the girl said, I chose to not go commit suicide because of her. So listen, let's just be kind. Let's extend grace. Let's understand their brain is doing way more things than we could understand. And I really do think there's great hope. Thanks, Dan. Done.
All right, super
Nailed
duper. So that was all really good stuff. And what I might do with Amy is, if there's enough interest in a extra credit session, I don't know, it's not extra credit, it's just extra more good stuff session, maybe we'll set that up on a 3-week base, maybe 3 weeks from now, as kind of an after class thing. And if there's enough interest, we'll see if I can talk her into another, half hour.
Anytime, or just email me. This is like such good stuff.
Why don't you put your email in the chat?
I'll do that.
So we can see it. And I'm pretty committed to getting everybody done by 7. Veronica's gonna pull up Geo's thing that I lost. Thank you so much, Amy, by the way. Let's give her a hand. That was awesome.
That was awesome. Thank you all.
She teaches it way better than I do, so that's why I had her come in.
Oh yeah, she's
the
the
best.
best.
Exactly.
All right, I want to try to do this in 2 minutes now.
I know Geo's quick. That's why we gave him 2 minutes. So Geo, are you ready? Where are you at there? There he is. And I'm so proud of Geo coming to GU, I worked on him pretty hard the last time I was up there. I twisted his arm and I don't know if I broke his arm, but I tried to.
All right, Gia, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the organization that you selected.
Well, I choose a Vallejo Police Activity League. That's that organization work with the police department to get the kids get together with the don't have a affair with the police department, and they have the program they go with the sports and help the kids to get out of the street and giving physical activities. Um, my daughter started playing soccer in that organization years ago. She's 21 now, and she was doing pretty good because she was pretty good at school, and that's why I pick up at this organization. Everybody's volunteer over there with coaching, um, and I think that's one of the good organization is in my town, Vallejo, and there's a lot of people that's in quit the school, and because they don't have this city doesn't have a pretty good programs in the sports, so that's why getting quit the school. And
For 18.
yeah, they 18 points when I do the analysis for the 990. And yes, I would like to, one of the questions, if I would like to be part of the organization, and I was like, yes. When my kids started going getting the sport ready for playing soccer, probably I gotta be volunteer for coaching the kids, and also they doing classes for be a ref, and I think the sport is a good starting because they keep you busy and you don't have to think about be on the street, be on drugs, and the soccer that's helped me when I was a child not to be in that life because I was pretty close with drugs and alcohol, and I was a kid, and the sport helped me to be out of those bad habits.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone have any questions for Giovanni?
I think, Gio, you got an award yesterday. Did you get an award at the Olympics?
That was my son. He helped another lady. She gets stuck on the one of the obstacles, and he stopped to help her.
Oh, okay. And what was the award? It was a Best Helper Award at the Olympics or something?
Yes.
Well, that's a good reflection on you, right?
I guess so.
Exactly.
Yeah, I try to teach my kids like what I learned in my life, right?
Yeah.
If somebody need help, stop and help them. It doesn't matter if you getting late or you're not gonna win anything because you have to stop and help the other. So
very good. All right, you guys, thanks so much. We're at 7:01, so we're good. So remember, 2 more sessions. Email Amy if you have questions. And it's been exciting for Gio to be help Amy. Amy wants us to buy apartment buildings for hundreds of people, and so we're trying to make lots more money apparently.
Really
So
do. Please do.
I can buy apartment buildings for everybody. And so that was a really nice session. So and also email us if you want to do another, say, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe session or class 8, which would be extra credit. And if enough people want to do it, we'd be happy to kind of go a little further with that. So so much of our stuff is so short and compact that we're just trying to give you resources of where to get more information. Really, that's what we do. the tax information for the nonprofits. If you want to stay in touch with Amy and give her organization a high five, $5 a month, and keep an eye on, or, learn what they do. That's what we're putting you in touch with really good people. And you guys are helping us discover more good people. That's why Mr. Bray had the vision for this, was he wanted a big audience of people to help find good nonprofits, since we all know there's 1.6 million nonprofits out there. So anyway, I may not see you all again. I'm going to Lebanon next Friday. That's why I have my little Lebanon hat. So if I get lost somewhere, they'll point me in the right direction. And so it was fun being with you guys. Veronica and Beth will pick up the pieces and keep up the journey going. But you got to get your grant stuff in, as soon as you can. Don't procrastinate. So anyway, thanks so much, you guys. Amy, thank you for taking some time to spend with us. It was really fun, really interesting. I have a friend that worked with the Boston Celtics for 20 years, and he had studied the brain for 30 years, and he could tell based on motor skills, kind of the Myers-Briggs composition of players. And so it's always been, the brain is always a very complex organism, and it can really get unhealthy for sure. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a good Sunday night. Thanks for being here. Give everybody a big hand.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you so much, Amy.
Good night.
Thank you.